Now, it's clear to many that these developments within SSNIT is calling to question the integrity of the trust. Like you saw earlier, there are even hampers being put on hold. The spending history of SSNIT does not really create that much trust in Ghanaians. Now, I'm going to run us by the indicted SSNIT officials and these four who were called and charged for willfully causing financial loss to the state. Ernest Thompson, the former Director General, main one here, Ernest Thompson, the former Director General of SSNIT. Juliet Kramer, the CEO of Perfect Business System, the IT company involved in this. John Hagen Mensah, the former OBS project manager of SSNIT. Caleb Kweku Afaglo, the director of ICT, who, if you would recall, whose educational qualifications came to question. Thomas Samson Owusu of SSNIT as well. Now, the scandal and the investigations that have been carried out so far with regards to this scandal. An independent assessment and a review of the operations of the trust in the first quarter of 2017 for a 3-year period has been done. Now, the following was done to establish possible cases of financial loss being caused to SSNIT, an IT review. There was an assessment of the automation project, IT governance, as well as the effectiveness of information security systems and controls following the issue with regards to the OBS system at SSNIT. Now, the internal controls assessments, the assessment of the quality of the trust, financial management, the accounting and the control processes that goes on within SSNIT, within the trust. Now, HR functions and effectiveness review was also put to question, looking at the talent and performance management systems, the succession planning, the existing HR policies. So this shows us that in addition to the financial issues within SSNIT, there's an HR issue that was being probed as well. Independent financial review, a review of the operational cash flow and performances for the financial years of 2014, 15 and 16 respectively, and a 3-month period ending 31st March 2017. So this all has been done so far in terms of the investigations being carried out. But the bottom line here is that it's clear that the integrity of SSNIT is really being called to question, and many Ghanaians are concerned. Okay. Alfred, on to you.
Right. Now, Natalie, thank you. So clearly, SSNIT promised sometime in August 2017 when this came up that they were going to publish the details of whatever report or investigations into this particular scandal by PwC. Thank you. Adam Senano is a co-chair of the Citizens Movements Against Corruption. He joins me in the studio, and I'm grateful for your time this evening. Now, this was suspected. Now there's been some more detail to it because SSNIT boss indicated that these findings corroborate what EOCO put out there early on. How does all of this get to you?
Well, first of all, it is very important to commend the current management of SSNIT for having taken the steps to do the necessary reviews and assessment that give us a better picture of what exactly transpired during the period. To the extent that they have also collaborated what EOCO has said, that's good for us. It means that we now know that there is a case to be answered and the various individuals involved should be brought before the courts to answer, to explain what happened. But we are still several days from knowing exactly who is culpable, etc.
Because trial will have to begin.
The trial will have to begin, and as we all know, sometimes these cases can take forever. And so it is important that SSNIT and its current management stays the course of ensuring that whoever will represent them and make sure the contents are taken to court, investigated, and the right people held accountable, that actually happens. Because that's what the good people of Ghana expect, not just the fact that we have established that something has gone wrong.
So in the end, you're saying that even though there's going to be prosecutions and all, it's causing financial loss, and the monies will have to be paid back because you're talking about contributors' monies.
Absolutely.
That has been lost.
Absolutely. Indeed, one of the things that I think probably should be a test case or a precedent is this number of assessments that were done. It seems to me that maybe we ought to be doing this anytime we have a change of management, do assessments of what happened in the last period. Yes, so that we can establish whether the various cash flow systems, financial management, HR, were managed in a manner that upholds the kind of things that we expect.
Beyond the financial aspects, which really we call to question in this report, and this is the summary of the report, and I must say that we're going to be serializing various aspects of this executive summary of the investigations and subsequently. But if you look at page 20 of this particular executive summary report, they say we were unable, that's PWC, to determine the actual payments made by SSNIT for each of the components of the automation project. This is because separate project codes were not established for accounting purposes. Payments provided to us were in respect to all transactions, and they have recommended that going forward, they would advise that separate project accounts should be maintained for each project to ensure that payments can subsequently be reconciled to contractual provisions. This is fundamental administrative structure that should be there. Now, how could this have happened? And one would say that beyond this financial loss to the state, there's certainly some administrative cost as well that has been seen in there.
Absolutely. It brings into question the competency of the people who were put in charge of these various projects. And in my mind, if we're having an auditor general representative who goes there and looks through the books, this is something that between the board's role in looking at it, the subcommittees of the board, and the Auditor General should have been identified long ago, especially because you are keeping in trust the monies that belong to contributors whose long-term benefits, retirement benefits are in your hands. So it's a very strange situation we find ourselves, that in such a very critical state organization, you find that people don't do the basic things that are required to guarantee the protection of the funds that belong to ordinary citizens.
One other aspect of this, is the bit about the investments that SSNIT made. That was also brought to question, in a precarious nature. So you see that this particular part of the report on page 35 says, as per the financial accounts, investment returns fell year on year from 33.71% in 2014 to 18.12% in 2016. And they look at areas that SSNIT invested: Metro Mass Transit, West Hills Mall, Africa World Airlines, and then the Trust Sports Emporium. This should also attract some review.
Yes, and I think that the issue of the board and the composition of the board, because there's a lot of supervisory deficits you find here. One is not expecting that on a quarterly basis, assuming the board meets and the management led by its Director General make a presentation. And this should involve charts showing what is happening in terms of investments, what is happening in terms of the value of what we are holding for people. Somebody at some stage should have said, now, what is happening that, the returns to the people is going down, the value of what we have is going down. What is it that is going on? Do you have a financial analyst? Do you have somebody who's looking at what portions of the economy you're investing, what types of investments you're making? This should have come up. And so for me, this actually brings into question the quality of the board and who was part of that board? How was it composed? Did he have the kind of expertise that will enable them to interrogate these issues and ensure that the various contributors to SSNIT were getting value for money?
Mr. Ano, thank you. They say the journey has just begun, but I'm grateful for your time.
Thank you too.
Thank you so much. As Mr. Ano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Join us in studio for this.